Welcome to Ancient Astrology with Sam and Verity.
Hi, I'm Sam Bakewell.
And I'm Verity Hebbs. And today's episode is episode 9, and it's on planetary sect. We were actually sort of, asked to do something on this because we had a viewer request some information about Saturn in a nocturnal chart with Aquarius as the ascendant.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Gus and Ludo. Yeah, it's great to get comments and requests and feedback.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, don't we?
Thank you. Yeah. So today's episode's on the planetary sect. Where should we start?
Well, I just wanted to do a quick recap on benefic and malefic planets. So our benefic planets is Jupiter and Venus, and our malefic planets Saturn and Mars. So generally, when I'm saying something about, well, is there a benefic helping out or supporting that planet, then I'm talking about Jupiter and Venus. However, you know, the moon is also beneficial, and the Sun and Mercury can go either way. So we've now completed our 7 visible planets, and later down the track, we'll look at Uranus, Neptune and Pluto and how I use them.
So yeah, I guess if you want any more information about the planets, you can check out our first episodes 2 to 8 on those. Yeah, to find out.
Yeah. So to our lesson on sect, the word sect comes from the Latin word seco, which means to divide. And the first thing we need to establish with sect is the chart a diurnal or nocturnal sect? Diurnal chart is when the sun is above the horizon, so the ascendant-descendant line, and a nocturnal chart is when the sun is below that horizon line from the ascendant to descendant. So we have gone through that in episode 5 on the sun, and we had a running clock.
Yes.
But we'll go to a chart and we'll share the screen. So here we have the ascendant, and there we go. So the ascendant is 5 degrees Libra and 11 minutes. And the opposite side, it would be the descendant, and it would be 5 degrees and 11 minutes of Aries. So you can see well and truly that the sun here is above the horizon line. And so if it was below, it would be a nocturnal chart. And so this is a diurnal chart. We'll go to our, hopefully I can find the next one easily enough. Oh, yeah, that worked. So the ascendant is 2 degrees Aquarius here, and 14 minutes, and the opposite side for the descendant, not depicted here, would be in Leo at 2 degrees and 14 minutes. So you can see that the sun is below the horizon in this chart, and therefore it is a nocturnal chart. So we'll talk about the team players, for a nocturnal chart and a diurnal chart. So the team players for a diurnal chart is the Sun, Jupiter and Saturn, and are also known as diurnal planets. And the team players for the nocturnal chart is the Moon, obviously, and Venus and Mars. So Vedius Valent tells us that these are the guardians or co-workers, and I always thought of it as when we were in primary school many years ago now. During phys ed, we had the teacher would pick two children, and we would pick our teams from that to play our games. So, so you pick your friends, to start off with. So, team A would pick her friends, and team B would pick his friends or her friends. And so it's the same with sect, so those planets that are in the nocturnal planets, they are the team players. So they want to do the best for that sect, to help out and support. So when a planet is in support, the chart supports what the planet represents. The malefic outer sect will cause a disunity, challenges, and discomfort. So the malefic outer sect is for a diurnal chart is Mars. So that's a nocturnal planet, malefic planet. And for a nocturnal chart, it's Saturn, which is the diurnal planet that supports.
I think we have a visual for that
as
well, which
Thank you.
help as well. So it's kind of like, exactly. You've got your team, and then there's the other team of the other 3 planets. So then obviously the malefic planets, one's more kind of on your side.
Exactly. So Mars is on the side of the nocturnal, playing for that team. And the diurnal malefic of Sect is Saturn playing for the diurnal team.
So what would that sort of look like? So like, I guess if you've got a diurnal sect, what are some ways that Mars could kind of be a bit problematic for a diurnal chart?
All right. Well, let's go to our diurnal chart, and that might be a bit easier. Sect diurnal. The diurnal chart here, the sun's above the horizon. So we have Mars is the malefic of Sect here. And Mars is actually conjunct the sun also, so incorporating, issues and problems with men or father. So when a planet is in rulership, and it's because
it's in Aries,
so it's definitely beneficial in a lot of ways, but it's also will go against the sun and whatever it stands for. It's placed in the 7th house also. So relationships, partners, business partners also. And how it works with it's angular, so it's strong. It's also in rulership, and it's a malefic of Sect. So that's always a big question mark. How does that play out for the native?
Quite a few factors going on with that.
So it's Mars is about cutting ties, and so it would be certain times. So you wouldn't expect that during her month, when we were looking at her months by prediction, that she's going to be cutting somebody off. It will be during those years, and it will be really quick because it's in a cardinal sign. And where it's a bit different, if it was more debilitated, it would be much more often, and if it was angular. But because it's angular and in good condition, in rulership, it's going to play out as very fiercely sometimes. So the sometimes will be during the Mars years, obviously.
Then it's sort of activated.
When it's activated, exactly, or by Fidaria, depending on what predictions you use. And even if Mars is there's an aspect to Mars, that would also trigger some sort of event as well.
And would it usually be about other people? Because it's
exactly. And what does Mars? What's the nature of Mars? Conflict, war, aggression, fighting, and so this native has been in, some pretty decent fights. Where somebody, a stranger, somebody that's not a friend, has fought with her, with her, like a fisticuff kind of fight. But it's not often. It's only been a couple of times in life, but it's still a predictable event. Right. So then there's been others, of course, relationship. And it also rules the 4th house by exaltation, and the second house. So of course there's financial problems that will arise during certain times, so that's a difference when a planet is in rulership. It's not going to be doing something all the time. It's going to sever the tie very quickly. The problem is going to arise, bang.
It's sort of comfortable still in its, like the planet is comfortable in doing what it's going to do in the most
very confident.
Exactly.
Very confident.
The way that it likes to do it.
Exactly. So it's a clean cut. So if it was an injury, and during certain years the setup would be for injuries, so it would be a clean sever, clean a break, or clean
like
accident.
It wouldn't be all like shattered bones inside. It would be like even though
clean
it's
fracture,
a terrible thing, it could potentially heal quicker. It wouldn't be so complicated to heal.
Exactly. That's right.
Interesting.
Okay, and so let's go to a nocturnal chart with the Saturn
Yeah, so Saturn would be the malefic
Okay.
planet.
So here we have Saturn in the first house, and it's in rulership as well. So we have this same thing going on with the planet in rulership. How does that play out? So we have an Aquarius rising, Saturn is there, and so the same deal. It's not going to play out all the time for the native, but it's still the malefic of Sect, so it's still going to be problematic. It is conjunct the ascendant, and it is the lord of the ascendant anyway. So, you know, the native here can be their own worst enemy. You could sort of say that. I mean, also we've got Capricorn here for the 12th house. So we're already getting that vibe anyway from the 12th house and being located
sort of
first.
hidden.
Yeah, that's right. Your own. This is the secret enemy house. So you're your own secret enemy. It will also be like, it's very different than Mars. Mars about cutting things and severing ties, so finishing relationships and ending things, you know, which gives that the Mars in Aries a lot of power, because you know, if you can take that power yourself.
Yes.
However, it is in the 7th house, so that power is not that native's power. It belongs to other people,
it could
right?
sometimes play out,
or the partner.
Other people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, you know, she was a Libran ascendant with Venus and Saturn in the 6th house. So it's telling you that, you know, she's not all that strong because she is placed in 6th house in a cadent house, you know, but that Mars and Sun is very strong. So with this one, it's saying that this native, it has got the strength, you know, like Saturn is about responsibility. So, you know, this is going to be a given that this person is going to end up with this responsibility. And it is in a fixed sign, so it's long lasting, you know, the responsibility, but how it can manifest is because it won't happen all the time, just like our other rulership Mars, is that it will be certain times where, and when the native is in a Saturn year, so the 12th house year, the 1st house year,
the 9th house,
and the 9th house, exactly. Well done for Libra. So instead of taking on the responsibility, they do the reverse. They don't want that responsibility, you know, because the difference between a ascendant with the Lord of the ascendant in the 1st house is that they're really important to themselves, you know, so doing what this person wants to do for themselves, and you would expect it to be isolating. It will be doing things on your own. Is really important for this native, because that's a very Saturnian thing, to do things on your own, to be detached, you know, very Aquarian thing, be detached from others. And it doesn't mean that she's never going to be with other people. It just means that that's a big part of her personality, but also that will also be a problem. So it'll be beneficial because that's how she wants her life to be, whether she knows that or not.
Yeah.
But it's also going to be a problem because being too alone, being too isolated, and she feels like maybe she's missing out on something else.
Like
so it's going to
and missing people. Feeling let down by people, maybe.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah, so that's how a Saturn in Aquarius would play out. Now, if let's say we had a Aquarius rising and you had Saturn in Pisces, well, that's going to be a very different person altogether.
Yes.
All right, you still got the Aquarius ascendant, but then the Saturn in Pisces is going to be somebody who is probably going to be more spiritual. It's in a finance house, so they're going to be more money orientated. But what happens if it's still a nocturnal chart is that Saturn is the problem planet.
And it's not in rulership anymore. So
exactly. So it's more problematic. So what's the problem? Money, finance. Right?
And it would still be hard for them to see that, I would assume, because
it's in aversion.
Yeah, exactly. And with Aquarius being the ruler, or you know, the ascendant, and then Capricorn 12th house. So it would be I can see how that would, yeah.
So we would have somebody that things happen behind their back,
yeah,
or they don't notice, you know, or they're so worried and stressed they make themselves sick because of money, you know, money situations. And if it was retrograde, well, then that's a whole nother story. That's even more difficult. But don't forget, we have, even if we had Saturn in Pisces in the second house, we would have Jupiter and Venus as the cusp lord.
yeah.
And if there was any other planets in that second house, well, then that would also have something to say. So it's not all doom and gloom. And especially with the Saturn in Pisces, it's not doom and gloom anyway for the Saturn in Pisces people, because we have Jupiter and Venus. If you had Jupiter and Venus debilitated or sitting in this 12th house, well, then, yeah, of course, then that's going to be difficult. You know, Saturn is going to be stronger, you know.
Yes.
So we've kind of gone into houses here, and when you start delineating, it does become a whole different. You can keep expanding and expanding from it, you know. But that's why these lessons are really important, you know, because you don't get to be able to do that without looking at quite a lot of different aspects to a natal chart. You know, we're looking at the sign, we're looking at the sign rising, we're looking at the planet, we're looking at whether it's masculine or feminine. You know, we're looking at a lot of things. And then, of course, you know, we haven't even brought in aspects to this whole chart. So we're just giving a brief description, you know, of what could happen. And then even if we had Saturn in Aries, you know, that is also debilitated because it would be in fall, it's in the third house, but it's a good thing to have a weak malefic. You know, that's where you want them.
That's what I was curious about, because it is a little bit confusing, because you kind of think, well, if it's a malefic planet and then it's got a lot of power, does that mean that it's worse in a way because it's sort of stronger? Or is it better for it to be weaker?
You definitely want your malefics weak, like in a cadent house. So the 3rd, 6th, 9th and 12th are better for those malefics. But you know, then that becomes another ball game, because then you will have the 12th house for health, and you have the 6th house for minor health.
Yes.
And, you know, so then,
yeah.
So you just have to delineate where it is, and you want your malefics and you want your benefics, you know, Jupiter and Venus, you want them angular. So this chart here has it has one malefic, you know, which is angular. It has one, and the other malefic succedent, and it has Jupiter, the other benefic angular, and it has one cadence. So
and that's their benefic of Sect, because they're nocturnal, so they've got Venus in a sort of weaker house.
Exactly where we would really prefer the benefic of Sect, because that's a legitimate benefic for a nocturnal chart to be angular. But you know, that's why
they've got their moon at the top. So is that good for them to have their moon at the top?
So for a nocturnal chart, we want the moon and Venus and Mars to be above this horizon line. So we've only got the moon, and we want diurnal chart, diurnal planets, Saturn, Jupiter, and the Sun, obviously the Sun, to be below the horizon.
So that's, at least they've got those down the bottom and the moon at the top. So it's,
exactly. So Saturn and Jupiter are below the horizon.
Even though they're in the first house and angular, they're still below.
They're still going to be a bit more helpful. And also having a great Saturn also is going to be helpful, because they'll be able to get themselves out of that sadness and that melancholy as well. You know, or the universe allows them to be in a position where that's what they're allowed to do in a safe place.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
so so Venus and Mars are out of Sect. You know, it'd be great if they were above the horizon.
And I guess Venus is in fall as well in Aries.
Detriment. Venus is in detriment.
Yeah.
So to add to this, we also would like the nocturnal planets to be in in feminine sign.
Right.
And the diurnal for diurnal planets, Saturn, Jupiter, and the Sun to be in masculine sign.
Okay.
So she has that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she has, yeah. And then even the Mars in Pisces.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, there's always some controversy around Mars, whether it should be in a feminine sign or masculine sign. But I've always, just from my own research and reading charts, I've noticed that Mars prefers to be in a feminine sign. So that's how I use it.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that's great to know because, yeah, I have Mars in a feminine sign, and yeah, you don't always hear a lot of good things about it, but it makes sense because it's a nocturnal Sect planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's kind of good to know.
Yeah.
A bit reassuring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you want the moon in a nocturnal chart to be in a feminine sign. So this one's in a air sign and a masculine sign, you know, so, you know, hasn't really got those kind of motherly qualities that, you know, a moon in Cancer would have, you know, or moon in Taurus would have. But that's okay, you know, that's just the way it's just the way it is, you know. Can't all be born with the moon in Taurus and the moon in Cancer. So all right, let's go to our other chart. And
that's the diurnal. Yeah, it's that one.
Okay, so here we have our diurnal chart, and we have Jupiter.
Oh, yes.
Nice. Yeah, it's in a masculine sign as well, so that's
in the
good.
Ninth house.
And in the ninth house, yeah. So that's got something going for a detriment Jupiter. Okay.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So now Mars is above the horizon, and so there is a little. So for me, I would add a little bit more malice to Mars because it's not in the right hemisphere for this chart. So we have Venus below and the moon below the horizon, so that's good. And Venus is in a feminine sign, the moon is in a masculine sign. So for me, I always do a tick list. So I just put my notes beside my charts, and I'll go below the horizon. I'll go below and masculine. So I give one a tick and one a cross, and that's how I go. So I start assessing it like that, and I'll just put up. I have to find my chart. I don't think I had it ready. I did have it ready, but it's not here. So bear with me. We can talk about Mercury while I'm looking for that.
So Mercury doesn't seem to be on either side. Why is that?
Because there's particular rules for Mercury.
Right.
Yeah, for Mercury in a diurnal chart, it favors rising before the sun. Or a morning star and in a masculine sign. And nocturnal charts, Mercury favors setting after the sun, so behind the sun, or an evening star. Okay, hopefully you can see this properly. So I am a nocturnal chart, only just, but still a nocturnal chart. And you see here we have primary motion. This is going this way against the sign, and we got a secondary motion going this way. So sometimes it's also known as a diurnal motion going this way, and we have a nocturnal motion that way. So there's so the planets all rise this way, going that way, and the signs are going that way. So here we have Mercury, which is behind the sun in a feminine sign. So this is called insect. So not as insect as in the little creature with legs.
So in hyphenation.
And if it was a masculine, if it was, a diurnal planet chart, we would want it the other side. We want Mercury here in a masculine sign, so probably here in a masculine sign if it was diurnal. So that's really helpful with a Mercury opposing Saturn, a retrograde Saturn. So that's helpful with it being in dignity as well.
Yeah.
So there we go. So I have behind and feminine. So I've got it in blue here saying that, you know, that to me that I would tick it. That'd be 2 ticks. And my moon is above the horizon, which is great. So it's above and it's masculine. So it gets a tick and a cross. And Saturn is also above, which you want it below and in a feminine sign. And well, the sun is what tells us whether it's diurnal or nocturnal chart, but because it's a you would want the sun is better in a masculine sign. However, I'm thinking also that when it is a nocturnal chart, it probably is not a bad thing for it to be in a nocturnal sign.
Might be less like frustrating. Less, you know what I mean? Like less frustrating. Yeah. Things happen, and it would be more comfortable to the native, you know.
Yeah, I think that'd be quite accurate. So Venus is below and in a feminine sign, so it has one thing going for it, being in a feminine sign, even though it's in fall. And Mars is below and masculine, so that gets a boom. But it is in its joy. So
yeah, exactly, it's in its joy.
Yeah. And Jupiter is below and in a feminine sign.
Yeah, I find it quite funny how Mars is enjoying the 6th and Saturn in the 12th, which is kind of like, you know, the health sort of areas, or the houses where there's, you know, they have not very, you know, good names. Isn't it like the bad house and the evil house?
I know. Well, they're pretty blunt.
Being in those houses.
They're pretty blunt.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah, but it has I have had the problems with Mars, even though Mars is not my malefic of Sect, but it's in its joy. But it has saved me from a lot of serious stuff that could have happened. Like, you know, I've been in a situation where I just about burnt my hair from from a gas stove.
Very Mars.
And it was really quite minor compared to what it could have been. You know, so that's I look at all these different things that could be a lot worse. And I'm constantly burning myself when I'm in a Mars month. Yeah,
I have that too. Or like cut my finger. Chopping something. Burning.
Yeah, I've always got aloe vera out in my Mars month. I mean, not because I think it. I just have. I just need it.
It's treating you.
And it happened very quickly. So Saturn is my malefic of Sect. So yes, and it also rules the 11th, 12th, and it's in the 1st and rules the 8th house. So you know, there's your dialogue there of lots of information, lots of things that will manifest for me. So it's because your malefic is in the 1st house. The 1st house is the best house, so it gives you a gift. It gives you the gifts, but it also is your malefic of Sect.
Yeah, and would it be sort of like a part of you, like you can't really escape it in a way?
Well, especially when it's conjunct, so tightly conjunct, exactly. And so it can be problematic because, you know, I take on responsibility very easily, and I will do it for some time, and then it's like, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore, or it's too much responsibility. I'm getting really stressed out here, and I'm pulled here and pulled there and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because especially Pisces rising or Sag rising would be like a part of you as well, would be like freedom. So it's kind of like that internal sort of push and pull.
The Jupiter side of me is about the freedom side and having fun, and then Saturn's like, you know, pulling the reins all the time. Not too much fun, girlfriend.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, but I do it to myself.
Exactly.
And of course, you know, you expect serious problems to happen. It is a Peregrine Saturn, meaning it has no dignity and it is retrograde. So, you know, it has played out to some pretty severe sort of life experiences. But because it's in a favorable house, it's not all the time. It is it is certainly when I'm in those 11th, 12th or 8th house year, you know, which I was in the previous year. And it's difficult, but it's not always difficult for me too. It can be for other people. So So we'll get into that
Mm.
a little bit further down the line anyway. So we'll be looking at, you know, running things between your chart, my chart,
Yeah.
and other people.
Yeah.
So I think hopefully we've covered. I think we got quite a lot done.
Yeah, I think it's a good sort of extra piece of information to have about someone's chart, isn't it? To help see more of a fuller picture and how the planets will work, because like you were saying, even if they're not in a great house, or they might be in a great house, there could be more to the story, such as, well, what sect is the native in, and how does that make these planets behave, or at particular times of, you know, their life or their year.
Is it something that's continual, you know, or is it something that's going to happen just during a certain time period?
And it can help kind of form a picture of how it will work out.
Well, you know, for somebody like myself who's got Capricorn, Aquarius, and then Saturn in Pisces, so I get 3 consecutive years of being slapped with a wet fish, you know, like, okay, another year of this. And as you get older, of course, you know, that Saturn's going to play out to health issues as well for me, because it's ruling that 12th house. So when all these conditions are met, the Arab astrologers call this haze, and when it is completely out of sect, it is called contrary of haze. So it's very rare that you will see a chart that is haze, because I couldn't find one on my database.
And sort of, it doesn't always mean it would work out great anyway, does it? Like we were saying, because it, you know,
there's so many things you have to consider as an astrologer to make that correct, accurate decision. And hopefully these lessons are going to be helpful for you to make that decision. And I mean, that's why we're doing this, and why we're doing this together, so that we can help people make accurate decisions. You know,
exactly. It's very empowering to be able to, you know, look at your chart and understand yourself more and see what could be coming around the corner.
Exactly. It is. It can be like, all right, I know this is going to be happening, or I think these 5 things are possible to happen, you know, let's get prepared for it.
Exactly.
I find it really helpful financially, actually.
I was thinking that. Like I will be approaching a Saturn year soon. I'm in a Jupiter one now. So, you know, having fun, but it's like, I better pull the reins in, because you know what I mean? I'm going to come into a more of a Saturnian year. So thinking, what can that mean? And you never fully know, but you can kind of look at patterns in your life and how it's played out, and be like, well, what if I try this? Will it work out differently? You know? So
I know. And somebody said to me, because I said, oh, look, you know, I knew that once I gave up work after my birthday, I was going to have 2 consecutive years of difficult finances. And they, well, how could you give up work, you know, knowing that? I thought, because I know it's still going to be okay, you know, and that's just part, I've got to live those years anyway.
And it's almost like whenever you were to stop working, there would be a difference in the finance at first. So that's kind of that playing out anyway.
Exactly. So the timing was probably was just meant to be. Exactly. And that's how I look at life, because everything is very Saturnian to me, because look at me, I've got Saturn in the 1st house. So everything is about time, and why I've become an astrologer, so I can, you know, monitor time and predict through timing, you know, through months or weeks or days or whatever the client wants. So, all right. I think we've covered quite a bit, actually. I didn't realize we'd get through all that.
It was great. Very interesting. And it's nice to know you have some planets on your side. And maybe,
All right. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. And bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.